Welcome back for week 3 of the Villanova Pokemon League.
It's
We're
that
now
time.
again recapping the Zangoose division. I'm Mark here with Dave and Tyler. Say hi.
Hi.
It is indubitably that time.
All right.
All right.
No witty banter to start with. So
Yeah, no
Dre and
banter
Tyler
this
this
time.
time.
I just want to
Do
point
we?
out that we are in fact the Zangooses and get
No,
on my way.
not like you just said. There's no banter, and then you try to start banter. It doesn't work like that.
Look, we both know I'm right. I pronounced Rotom correctly. I know Nightshade
Stop.
Dusclops
Stop.
is a real set.
Stop.
All right. So the first
you're,
match,
you're also gonna lose this week.
I don't know about that one, dog. I've got some god sets. Like I got Special Cinchino for
Oh
the
boy.
almighty and powerful Water Pulse. That pretty much runs through your entire team, just so we're clear.
Oh no, you're right. It does.
Yeah, I really put a lot of thought into that one. Alright, anyway.
Yeah.
The first match we will be discussing today is me versus Eric. I wasn't super concerned about Eric. His team spooks me, and by his team, I mean pretty much only Terrakion. He's got a decent wall core between Celesteela and Blissey, but Latios can bust through Celesteela and a Psyshock for Blissey. Another weird thing about building for Eric was that he's either got really fast Pokemon or really slow Pokemon, and no in between. So all my Pokemon that have middling speed tiers, which turns out to be my entire team except for Latios, I could pretty much freely run attack or special attack boosting natures on to augment their wall breaking capability, and also just, as Chris White would say, gunhead on his team and just bust through everything. And I actually ran Ban Heracross because of close combat can 2-hit KO Celesteela, which was pretty lit. So I looked at his team that he brought, and he opens Dr. Worm, the Melodic, which was not what I expected, but I opened Rotom because it was pretty free, and I decided to Volt Switch. I forgot that Manectric gets Lightning Rod, so he pretty much immediately punishes me, but Tyranitar switches in on Manectric completely free. So he gets his cute little overheat off, and it does 25% to my Tyranitar. And I have no HP investment. I'm actually DD Tyranitar, but I don't get to use that in this game. I go for a really greedy Earthquake on turn 3. I didn't think he would go into Celesteela. I thought he was going into Terrakion instead. So Celesteela, I figured what was the worst thing that could happen, so I swap in my physical defense Rotom Frost, and I take 47% from a Heavy Slam. Now that is not anything near what a Celesteela should do to a Rotom, so I knew this man, I actually thought it was banned. Like, I calced it, and that was a banned calc. And so I pain split to get some health back, and then I just decided to go straight in for the burn, because I do not want this thing clicking Heavy Slam on my team, even though, like, this is not as much of a threat as physical defense Celesteela. I don't need this unnecessary damage. And then eventually he goes for Rock Slide, and I find out he is not in fact banned. I don't know why he went for Rock Slide. I don't understand the rationale. But I Volt Switch out of there on turn 8, which is conveniently the turn he sends in his Manectric, which worked out quite nicely for me. And I get to bring in Sheldon. Now Sheldon is a Life Orb Crocodile, and I go for a greedy Earthquake because I didn't think he'd swap in Celesteela, and I kind of blast Dr. Worm. And then it uses a Z Magic Coat, but I click Earthquake again and just deny. I guess he was predicting the rocks. That's a pretty fair play, but I was a revealed Moxie Life Orb Crocodile. And when he brings in the Terrakion, this is pretty much the make or break moment. I go hard into Rotom Frost. I actually intended to sack it, but he misses a Stone Edge and I get the burn off. And I just want to point out that the burn does not matter. He's not Scarf, which means the Latios outspeeds, and Latios has an extremely high chance to OHKO Terrakion with a little bit of prior damage, which it has from the rocks, and the burn, well. And if he's not Double Dance, or if he sets up a Rock Polish, I can go into Heracross and live a Stone Edge and close combat him. Which you can see I actually do that on turn 14. That does a lot of damage because he's Life Orb, but I live it. And I knew I would. And he sends in his Typhlosion on turn 14, and there's only one real Typhlosion set, and that is Scarf Eruption. So I immediately hard swap into Lantern, yeah. Chandelure, which is Flash Fire, and I pretty much find out that he's Scarf. I go back, I double switch into Heracross because the Blissey coming in was pretty obvious, and that's a free close combat, and he just decides to sack his Blissey. At this point, Latios pretty much cleans. It can take 2 HP Ice from a Manectric and Oko it with Draco, and then it can bust through Celesteela with Z Thunder regardless of its health. We can see that Eric actually has Electro Ball, which is pretty heat. I like Electro Ball. If you use a Raichu in Electric Terrain, you can Oko Special Defenses, or if you have Specs, with Electro Ball.
That's a very specific calc.
Yeah, dude,
Fact.
It's a great calc. The final turns, after turn 20, when he has just his Typhlosion, spooked me solid. I thought he had HP Ice, so he brought it in, but he does super effective damage to my Tyranitar. So I thought it was HP Ground, but I was living it, so I go for Stone Edge, and I miss. So now I have to preserve the differential, and I hard swap into Shandy, kind of thinking about just taking the L. But it turns out that he's HP Grass, which I presume is for Lantern, and I guess Crocodile, although you could just Eruption that. But Shandy's going to seal the deal. The hidden powers do like no damage. All in all, I think there wasn't really a lot Eric could have done this game. I had him kind of in a chokehold the entire time. I never would have let him set up a double dance with Terrakion. If he did, he would have gotten burned, and then, you know, kind of back to square one. So, I mean, I denied him the effective use of Manectric, although I could see the argument that he could have been in a much better spot if he used it a little bit more liberally. That's pretty much all I have to say on the match. It was pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
Any thoughts, Dave?
Yeah. One thing I want to say is just I'm deeply saddened by not only the melodic just kind of dying, because I'm a big fan of Dr. Worm, and also Celesteela, not just the whole season. Like I'm just deeply saddened of Celesteela and its history in our draft league, and I want to see it shine, and it just hasn't had the chance. I need like a sweep or a dirty Z superpower kill, or I don't know, just walls everything. I need something to happen with Celesteela, and this it makes me sad. Also, watching Blissey get OHKO'd anytime, it's satisfying, and at the same time it's kind of sad.
Dude, Blissey probably gets OHKO'd by like
anything
that's physical.
Yeah, it does, but at the same time, it's got a lot of HP. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was banned Heracross. That never ended up mattering since I only let it kill Terrakion and Blissey. But this is the triumphant debut of Heracross.
Yeah, I don't know about the Rot and Burn. I feel like, or at least, I feel like the Stone Edge miss did kind of matter, because then no burn, then you can't send in Heracross, then because it wouldn't have lived. And you said like Latios, I don't know, it's still that's a big spanking on Latios. It's just like Stone Edge misses.
Latios is faster, Doc.
Yeah, but like, I don't know.
So I would have outsped and KO'd it. It just would have been gone.
But why didn't you go Latios then instead of Heracross?
Because he had no switch-ins to Heracross. Although he didn't really have a good switch-in to Latios either. I could have done either. I decided that keeping Heracross healthy was less important than keeping Latios healthy, because Heracross can't switch in on anything on his team, but as I noted, Latios can switch in on Mega Manectric and 1v1 it.
I mean, I'm not gonna be the guy who says, man, that Stone Edge miss changed the course of the battle. I mean, you guys know how I am, but it hurts to get burned. So I mean, you just from like your little comment on that, I don't really have a whole lot on this battle.
Yeah, Stone Edge. The accuracy of Stone Edge in our league right now is pretty bad. I think people should just stop running it. Run like Rock Slide or something. Just stop clicking Stone Edge, please. But otherwise, I think this is kind of just the third week in a row where Eric's brought a team that doesn't really have a direction. Like, this team was kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
Bringing Typhlosion in the first place versus Chandelure and Tyranitar, like, kind of not. Like, I understand Typhlosion can protect Celesteela from fire moves. Like, it's great. It's a great pairing with Celesteela. Same with the Mega Manectric. But neither really had a very good matchup, in my opinion. And there was the creativity aspect of the team building was an aggro Celesteela that was not as good as a physically defensive Celesteela would have been, and a Magic Coat, Z Magic Coat Milotic that got blown away by a Crocodile.
Yeah, that was
So,
feels bad.
So I think Eric needs to. He's got like a decently solid team on his hands. I think he just hasn't really figured out how to use it yet, and you might need to go back to the drawing board a little bit and figure out which Pokemon
He should have kept
are
Yikes.
more geared to good matchups.
That's what did it.
Yeah, I mean, if he had Staraptor, he would have been unstoppable.
Yeah,
Agreed.
that's all I got on this one.
Yeah.
All right.
Eric now has 3 losses by 5-0.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. And I am now the only undefeated player in our division, and that will stay that way this week.
No.
Dude, you don't even know what kind of fresh hell I have prepped for you.
I mean, if you don't have like red card for Hawlucha, then it's over.
It runs trash items like red card.
Okay, listen. I don't know how else you're gonna stop Hawlucha.
All right, hear me out, right?
Okay.
I come in with
Yeah.
Cinccino, okay?
Okay.
And I go faster because you're actually a brave Hawlucha, okay? And
Okay.
I King's Rock Tail Slap you, and I do that like 6 times, and eventually it kills.
All right.
There you go. Optimal counterplay. Heard it here first.
Yeah. No. I mean, I don't see any way around that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
problem solved.
no,
Sounds like to me.
you basically just lose.
I'm gonna have to run like Scarf, HP Fighting, Coco to beat that.
Ah, but you see, Cinccino's actually a ghost type, so I'm
No.
immune.
No way.
Yeah, dude, it's normal
You also
ghost.
can't
Look it
run
up.
HP fighting on Coco.
Dude,
like,
if you run
actually
HP
possible
fighting
to run HP
Coco,
fighting.
I will die.
I run Scarf, HP Dark. How's that?
Oh shit. I don't know. Cinccino might lose to that one. That's pretty
Maybe.
rough.
Anyways,
All right, moving on to me versus Anna. Yeah, just looking at the team matchup. I'm not gonna divulge what the low punny set was. Just suffice to say, it didn't ever do anything
we're not
of
divulging that.
consequence.
It's not that great. It's not really worth not divulging, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I might want to run like a similar thing later in the season. So
Alright.
I don't want to say anything more on the low punny set. Suffice to say, it just was not useful in this matchup
No.
in particular.
Rest in peace.
But looking at the lead, I saw she brought Miltank this time, so I thought maybe she might have changed her sets up. And I just wanted to scout what the Arcanine was going to do, if it was Rocky Helmet, leftovers, whatever. I don't see an item, so I figure it's probably another berry, because I know Anna coming from VGC likes those 50% berries. I go right into Starmie, predicting the Will-O-Wisp. And she doesn't really have great switch-ins for Starmie, but I'm not really ready to predict at this point in the game, so I'm just going to start clicking the super effective moves on whatever's in, because I'm looking for Zoroark at this point, because besides having my Forges, Zoroark's kind of a pretty big threat to my team, so I'd like to figure out where it's at, and she just gives me little bits of chip on all of her Pokemon in order to find it, which is fine with me, because Starmie, outside of not having great switch-ins on her team, also isn't super important to my team. So I'll just follow her around. I eventually find the Zoroark. She makes a good play, and U-turns out with on the Florida switch-in. So she's actually kind of got momentum early in the game. So I'm just going to kind of wrestle it back with Forges here and just stay in on the Venusaur until it clicks Leech Seed on me. So first I Heal Bell off the burn on my Analytics Starmie while she predicts, I assume that was Hidden Power Ice for Thundurus or Hidden Power Rock or something like that. Probably Ice. I just am going to start Moonblasting her until she Leech Seeds me, which she does after I click the Heal Bell there. And basically the idea was just to get in Scolipede and start setting up on this Venusaur. So after getting the Leech Seed, I figured she won't go for the double Leech Seed. She clicks Sludge Bomb, and now she either has to decide to switch out or go for Leech Seed again, which she does. She could have just kept attacking me, but even in that case, if I start setting up SDs, it gets a little bit scary for her. And I noticed last week that John kind of swept her with Subcom Mine Jirachi, so I figured she was a little more vulnerable on the sub end. And I just SD with my Scolipede and knock out the Venusaur with the Poisonium Z, which is great because that's basically half her wall core gone. I mean, the Miltank is a little bit of a problem for this team as well, but for the most part, I just need to get rid of Venusaur and Arcanine to win the game. And turn 13, she goes Arcanine, gets the Intimidate off. You know, it's the right play. And at this point, I'm content to sack off Scolipede. I don't know if she knows that I'm content to sack off Scolipede, but I figure her best play is Flare Blitz, and I might as well get a little bit more chip on this Arcanine before I go out. So I click Substitute, just in case, for some reason, she decides to click like Will-O-Wisp. She clicks Protect on the Substitute, which is not the play there. Basically, I don't know if she noticed that I really had no reason to keep Scolipede around because it couldn't really set up on anything else. But I was content to sack it off, just get the extra Flare Blitz chip on it, and then hit it with a Poison Jab and have it knock me out. But instead, she lets me behind a sub, and that's really not good for her now because I'm going to be able to knock out this Arcanine with 2 Poison Jabs. The reason I didn't go for another SD and then Poison Jab is based on the Fake Out damage. I thought she was max Fizdef Arcanine, which she actually wasn't, it turned out. And a +3 Poison Jab would have actually put her in range of the Berry. So I just went for 2 Poison Jabs, knocked it out, and then I'm going to get a big hit off on Garchomp before finally ending up sacking off the Scolipede. So basically half her team's gone at this point, and all I've really lost is my Scolipede. So I've got a few options to go into Garchomp, go in on Garchomp here. Basically, the game's not over at this point, but I'm in a very favorable position. So I just knock out the Garchomp with HP Ice. I saw she was bulky from the Mega Horn damage, so I figured I would outspeed, or it certainly wouldn't knock me out. And Thundy puts in a lot of pressure on her team. Goes back into Zoroark, and I have Florges for that. I can take 2 Spec Sludge Bombs if she doesn't crit me or poison me. Because I added a little bit of Spadef on this Florges. And basically, Florges is just going to sit on the rest of her team at this point. I go into Starmie just to get the extra damage on Tapu Fini because I want to preserve the Florges for Zoroark. But she actually taunts, which means Starmie's going to pick up a kill here, no matter what she switches into or leaves in the Tapu Fini as she ends up doing. And then basically I just end up switching around to keep differential. I don't let the Starmie go down when she brings Zoroark back out, even if she U-turns, which she actually does end up doing. Florges versus Miltank isn't that bad of a matchup for me. And we have, for the second week in a row, kind of a bulky fairy type versus somebody else's wall Stallfest with my team here. This one's not as long as the Skarmory versus Sylveon Stallfest that went on last week versus AJ. But basically, it's just me moonblasting her body slamming me. She toxics me, I heal bell it, I keep moonblasting her. And eventually, I think it's on turn 30?
It is on turn 30.
Yeah, on turn 30, I get her low enough that she has to milk drink, so I just bring Thundurus back in. And now Thundurus is getting a kill just by clicking Thunderbolt. She doesn't sack the Zoroark, so the Miltank's going to eat it. And again, just to preserve differential, I'm going to switch Thundy out here at the end, back into Florges, and Florges is gonna clean it up. But yeah, like I said, after turn 13 with the protect on the Arcanine, this game was pretty much over. Scolipede ended up putting in more work than it should have as a result of the protect, and basically just blew through the defensive core of her team. And there wasn't much left she could do about the rest of my offense after that. But yeah, that's all I got on this one.
Yeah, I guess I'll start. One of my
Yeah.
big things about Anna's team and its utilization of Zoroark is that part of the best thing about Zoroark is illusion, and that you can constantly pressure your opponent's team by making them fear the Zoroark. And her team is just not conducive to doing that. She's got Tapu Fini and Arcanine, which she brings pretty much every time. And both of them have an ability that activates when you switch them in, so you know if it's a Zoroark or not. Like on there is a turn where she sends in the Zoroark, and it comes out as Tapu Fini, and there's no terrain.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
it doesn't work. And then, of course, the Zoroark was just not a good bring against your team. I don't think it really did a lot to pressure you because you had Florges, and also it was slower than some dominant offensive threats. So it really just didn't have a lot of opportunity to do very well. And my final comment is I think there was very poor Miltank utilization, especially against the Scolipede. Now, I'm not familiar with Miltank calcs. I'm not familiar with Miltank calcs, but I get the feeling that sacking Arcanine, which had Heat Wave instead of something better like Flood Blitz or E-Speed, and Chomp, was not the optimal way to deal with Scolipede.
Yeah, I think she probably should have brought the Miltank in, if not before the arc went down, certainly afterwards. Because the nice thing about going arc is she gets the Intimidate off. And
Yeah.
I guess the Miltank would have had the chance to para, but it would definitely have died to 2+2 Mega Horns, or maybe even Poison Jabs. I didn't actually run that calc at the time. But definitely sacking Garchomp there, too, in addition to the fact that the Miltank had already eaten it, was not a good look. Or that arc had already eaten it.
Yeah. Basically, I just all I had to say was the Zoroark thing. It was both times. It was obvious that it was both times it came in. Guys was seeing it was obvious that it was Zoroark because it ate a Psychic. It was immune to Psychic, and then it used U-turn. So immediately we all know that it's a Zoroark. And then the second time it comes in and Misty Terrain doesn't activate. So it's anybody who's paying attention can obviously see that it's not Tapu Fini. I think that something like Shedinja is that really worse than Zoroark? Because if you try to attack it and then it's immune, then you're in trouble. Relatively in trouble.
I can't believe you're plugging Shedinja
as much trouble
as a good teammate for Zoroark.
Hey, it's the best, is it not? What's a better teammate for Zoroark?
I don't know. Probably not Shedinja because you want teammates for Zoroark that aren't complete trash.
Yeah, alright. Doesn't it, after the first thing its disguise size goes down, doesn't it, change the disguise? I think the disguise actually ends up changing. Yeah, whatever.
I'm not actually sure.
I
didn't notice if it happened in this match. I think it went down after Tapu Fini in this game,
yeah.
so I didn't notice if it came in as...
Consult RU players.
Yeah,
who actually use Zoroark.
Another thing, Garchomp should have outsped the Sunday because its base speed is 1 point higher than Sunday, so that's I would think that's an obvious max speed build. But
she was running physical defense Chomp because it could, presumably because it could handle Lop variants that didn't have Ice Punch, or maybe just because she wanted a decent rocker.
I don't know, but then there's Miltank and an Arcanine with Intimidate, so it was a little bit redundant as in that role, and it could have punched a hole in Thundy, I think.
It wouldn't have taken the Mega Horn in the first place though if it weren't bulky.
Just run Sash.
So I could have just gone Lop or something there.
But it shouldn't probably have gone in against the Scolipede, maybe Fizz Death Miltank or Arcanine or something better. That I don't even remember the order of the way things went down, but Garchomp shouldn't really be your physical defense answer to boosting Scolipede, I don't think.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I wanted to say was just you guys were kind of talking about just the order that things get sent out. You gotta kind of plan ahead with how the match is going to progress and what the early game Pokemon are and the late game Pokemon are. You just gotta kind of envision that, and your walls shouldn't be the last things that go out to try and clutch up the game. It doesn't. Miltank isn't going to clutch up the game. Miltank is somewhere in the middle or early, I would think. The way that it was, you want to get a Toxic off on something like Florges and then switch out and just dance around a little bit better is maybe the advice I can say. And I don't think Venusaur had to go down. I don't think Garchomp had to go down necessarily. I think Scolipede definitely could have been handled better. if not in team prep, which it could have been handled better there, then definitely in the match with like what order you're sending stuff out in.
Yeah, I'll admit to kind of taking advantage of the fact that that Anna doesn't play singles very often, and I think John kind of did last week as well with the sub sweep. Substitute's actually a pretty common move versus more passive walls, so you can use them to set up on. And clearly, like that's not something you see as often in VGC, I would imagine. So it's probably something she wasn't as prepared for, and both of us kind of use that to our advantage here, especially with the kind of random protects thrown in. Protect in singles isn't really very useful unless you're toxic stalling, you have leftovers, wish, what have you.
I disagree. I think protect is still a great move in singles.
But it's not bad. It's like, but if you can't find a fourth move and you've got some kind of residual damage going, then that's when you got to, or you're scouting.
You need to be gaining something from it.
I will say that protect is much better in draft than in standard play.
Yeah, not just like a random, or like maybe they're running something with high jump kick, like low punny. So maybe that would have been good. But like at the same time, just a random protect when there's a boosted Scolipede sitting in front of you, there's really no point.
Oh yeah. Agreed. One thing I do want to point out about Anna's team is that she has no steel type, but what she does have is a Ladian and a Mr. Mime and a Wobbuffet. Now, I'm not saying that this was a poor draft decision, but you may want to consider, if you're Anna, getting a steel type out of tier 5.
Don and I actually both kind of took advantage of the fact that she had, or were going to take advantage of the fact that she had no normal resists, like no rock types, no steel types.
Yeah.
I don't think she has a ghost type, not that Low Punny would care, but I don't think she has one.
Something else that would be a good disguise for Zoroark is Wobbuffet, because Wobbuffet is the definition of a passive Pokemon. And if somebody think maybe like they can set up on it, or they're going to hit it with super effective ghost or dark type move, and it's actually Zoroark, maybe using a nasty plot or something, that can cause a lot of trouble.
But nobody's gonna actually attack in the Wob because it doesn't have Shadow Tag, so there's literally no reason to.
Exactly. So you set up nasty plot.
Yeah, but it's a trash bring. You're basically operating with a 5 Pokemon team.
Well, it's better than disguising it. Just for a disguise option for Zoroark. It's one of the good things I would say. Even if you're just poking around in tier 5, like Shedinja and Wobbuffet, I would say that they're pretty good as disguises for Zoroark.
I would rather disguise as Ladian, because at least it can U-turn. There it is. I snuck it in. Volt turn, boys.
I didn't even hear what you said. I think your mic cut out for me.
Oh, I said I'd rather disguise as Ladian because at least it can U-turn.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Of course.
Well, right, yeah, because you... reveal the bullet punch and then,
Ooh. Alright, so I think we're ready to move on to our final match.
Right, yeah. Alright, so this was mine. So going into this game, Glumac, he won both of his previous games from setting up and basically sweeping. And in my opinion, it wasn't the most graceful setup. The first game, I think he kind of fell into it when Jacob used knockoff against his Lucario, and then he kind of got a free +1, and then he just kind of ran through everything because Jacob didn't really know how to respond. He kind of panicked. And then second week, it was pretty similar, but it was sub DD Gyarados, I think, right? Yeah, so basically the same thing, like you were saying with sub, just some sub misplays kind of led up to that. So naturally, the way that I need to respond to the setup sweepers is bring the greatest setup sweeper of all time, and that's Lanoon. And I accomplished this by setting up Belly Drum behind an Aurora Veil, like an extremely skilled player does. But I was actually pretty proud of this because, originally when I was prepping for this team, I had Rain Dance, Silvally, Rain Dance, Tailwind, Parting Shot, Silvally, and I was going to lead that when expecting him to lead Gigalith. I kind of walled Gigalith with that Silvally. So I would set Rain Dance and then Tailwind, and then I would Parting Shot out into like an offensive Life Orb Empoleon, and then Empoleon was going to do some shenanigans with like a Life Orb Scald or whatever. That never came to fruition because I didn't need 2 Mons to play the Weather Wars game with the Gigalith, because his Excadrill is basically relying upon the sand, and the Lando is too a little bit, the chip damage, but it kind of helps him a little bit, I think, also. So yeah, I decided to get the weather on Mew, and then I was like, hey, wait a minute, it gets Aurora Veil, and it gets Hail, so I had Z Hail was the first set, but then that never happened. So I just took the Icy Rock or whatever it is to get 8 turns of Light Clay, sorry. 8 turns of Aurora Veil, because 8 turns of Hail wouldn't have made any sense. So I'm starting the battle now. I'm gonna skip forward a little bit after I said Aurora Veil. In between here, I should have clicked Hail again when on turn 4 when his Lando U-turns. I should have, like Jeff said in the chat, I should have known that he was going to go back into Gigalith one way or another. And I think he already revealed that U-turn at that point, didn't he? That was his very first move. So I should have seen it. I wasn't really thinking. I was just kind of excited to get up Aurora Veil, right? I was in the Hail. Obviously, you click Aurora Veil, but no. So I kind of goofed a little bit. I lost a little bit of health. It didn't really end up mattering, I don't think. If anything, it saves me an extra turn of Aurora Veil by having Mew go down when I'm going into my Lanoon. So Gigalith comes back in. I set the Hail again. I set Aurora Veil when he switches out into Lucario. And so he sets the Sword Stance. He's trying to go all in just like he did for the other battles. But I'm still behind the Aurora Veil. So basically it's like we're both neutral because he's double damage, but I'm half damage. So then my Mew actually hangs on 1 health. I think do I have speed? No, I don't. All right, so he Sword Stances, and I Earth Power. That was John's idea. I don't remember. I think I had Muddy Water or something. I had Scald. I had Scald, and I think they both would have 2-hit KO'd. So it didn't end up mattering which move I brought, but I had Earth Power for this exact situation here. And he crunches, and I just barely live, which I didn't expect to live. Because the whole time I was in prep, I was debating on whether or not I should be fast or bulky, see if I should outspeed these things. Because his team is relatively slow. It's kind of all monotonous speed tiers, 80s, 90s, not super threatening. So I could have outsped him with the Mew. I think I decided to go with bulky because I didn't outspeed him, and it looks like it paid off a little bit. Maybe it didn't because I could have just outsped him, but it doesn't really matter anyways. So I hit him with Earth Power again, and then I get down to Hail. And then Lanoon comes in. He sends out his Gyarados. Basically, whatever he sends in, I'm gonna set Belly Drum, and it's actually kind of funny here because his Gyarados has got some bulk. The calcs didn't say that Gyarados lived that, so he needed, I don't know, a decent amount of HP or defense to survive the +6 E-speed on Lanoon, and it gets him a little bit more waterfall damage, and it's actually a really important live later on because his crest ends up Lunar Dancing. He goes Excadrill, which isn't super. I mean, it ends up killing Lanoon, but I'm happy to take the 80% off Excadrill. Lanoon did its job behind the Aurora Veil. It chunked off his Lando, and Excadrill's low, and Gyarados is low. So I'm pretty happy now. I'm pretty comfortable. Crest was basically the only thing that walled my Hawlucha, which it always did in prep, by the way. Crest completely ate anything Hawlucha had. I had +6 acrobatics or something. It only did I don't know, 70%. I don't even remember the calcs, but it was something disgusting. Crest just ate up Hawlucha, and later I think he's a screaming Lunar Dance Cresselia, which I don't think was a very good bring because Fizdef Crest, again, it just ate up Hawlucha. He didn't need to be this supportive. He could have just been physically defensive and then thrown a Psychic or a Moonblast, and my Hawlucha's dead. But instead he set screens. I go into Empoleon because it's my dedicated switch into Cresselia. I think I had some kind of jank toxic stalling set. No, I had defog, and I was planning on defogging his screens, but he goes for Lunar Dance a turn early, so I was going to toxic this turn, and then defog the next turn to get rid of his light screen, but he only set Reflect, which I guess was for Hawlucha, and it turned out to be a better play for him, because now I'm in with Empoleon against the Gyarados, which is now full health behind Reflect, so it's a little bit scary. It was a good play. I'm a little bit disappointed that he suicided it like Tyler was the first week, because I don't get any kills.
Yeah, do we have to start a suicidal Pokemon counter for you?
Yeah, no, we might, because then Gigalith explodes later.
Oh, that's true.
I go out into Coco. I don't remember the Coco set, but he taunts it. I think that I could have used a status move here, something weird. I don't remember. But I'm stuck into using either Wild Charge or like HP Ice against the Gigalith. Neither of which do any damage because he's still behind Reflect, and it's a Gigalith. But I don't really care at this point. I just need to not lose Coco and have the terrain go away. So he just goes boom, which I mean it's not terrible for me. Like I'm okay with it because the terrain's still up. I can just go Hawlucha. You know, I maybe would have liked to keep Coco, but it worked out. Like he didn't. Explosion wasn't really the right move there, I don't think. I wonder if he would have just done the job with like an Earthquake if he'd brought it. But I don't know. He goes boom. I don't get the kill. So I go Hawlucha, and it's basically Hawlucha just cleans up here. I Drain Punch his Excadrill with the Chopley Berry. If he was behind Reflect, I think Reflect ended the turn. Yeah, Reflect ended the turn that Gigalith went boom. If he had been behind Reflect with the Choppleberry, it was almost a roll to live the Drain Punch. It wasn't. He was at like 21, and the roll was like 22 to 28 or something like that. So like if he'd had just a little bit less chip damage on the Excadrill, maybe not been willing to take a +6 extreme speed from Lanoon on that. He would have been able to live that, and also like maybe just like a low roll on that extreme speed plus the Reflect. He may have been able to live that, and then also I don't know what he does to Hawlucha. I don't think he can actually do anything back to Hawlucha, but that's what happened. So then I just kind of I don't bother Swords Dancing because I think that the Gyarados might have sub. I'm a little bit worried about that, and just because I'm recovering with Drain Punch, it just kind of does the job whether or not I set up. So yeah, that's the game. First game, Hawlucha shows up.
Yeah, I know.
Actually, yeah.
I was proud of you.
Yeah.
Actually bringing good Pokemon.
Actually turns out to do its job. Do we have who's going? Is it?
Oh, I'll go.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great bounce back for you from last week where you brought a lot of kind of memey stuff that just wasn't even close to working last week. And then this week, the Hail Veil Mew actually was some really nice tech that worked out for you. Hail in the first place being kind of nice to get rid of the sand, but the Aurora Veil really coming in clutch with the Linoon, basically allowing you to kind of cripple his team with extreme speed. Like he really didn't have many options besides to go into Excadrill to eat that extreme speed earlier in the game, which of course it made it easier for Hawlucha to sweep up the back end. But you can tell looking at Glumac's team, like it's very set up, like friendly. Like you mentioned, he likes to set up and go kind of.
Yeah.
And he's got the screens on Cresselia. He's got some good setup mons. So it works, but you got to do it, I feel like, at the right time. You can tell he got kind of antsy, it seemed like, with the Lucario. Setting up on a Mew just isn't really a good look for Lucario, because not that you're necessarily expecting Earth Power, but like Will-O-Wisp, for example, is a threat. So from that aspect, definitely blowing it a little early with Lucario there. But more importantly, kind of just blowing up his entire defensive core with Cresselia and Gigalith didn't really make much sense to me, especially the Cresselia, because his team is super weak to Hawlucha. Not just the team he brought, but the team in general. It's super weak to Hawlucha outside of Cresselia, and he absolutely needed Cresselia in this game, and just having a Lunar Dance set, like you said, I don't think was really the right the right bring when you could just bring physically defensive Cresselia and
Yeah,
wall
it was-
Hawlucha for days.
It turned out to be like kind of a cool tech, bringing like because the Gyarados is at 3%, and it's all of a sudden it's at full health. But I was way happier to get to deal with Gyarados than I was with a Cresselia at full health.
Yeah.
Which I mean,
That's all I
if it hadn't Lunar Dance there, then my Empoleon was in. I would have toxiced it and then defogged away the screens, and like I had a way to deal with the Cresselia, but after it went down, after it went down, Silvally and Empoleon completely lost their uses. So basically, after Cresselia was gone, it was Hawlucha against the world because neither of my other two guys could do anything to his team.
Hmm.
Which wasn't terrible because like Hawlucha beats the rest of his team, but at the same time I was a little bit nervous because I only had Hawlucha as an option.
Yeah, I'll just echo
Hey, thoughts, Tyler?
the Cresselia letting it die way too early. It was his only answer. Cresselia was the only thing he had to wall Hawlucha, and I think Lunar Dancing it before Hawlucha came out was a bit of a waste. Although I won't say Lunar Dance was entirely a waste. I think it definitely could have been more threatening if he had something else to go into it other than Taunt Gyarados. I think sub DD Gyarados would have definitely been a better bring with like Crunch and Earthquake, because that would have had a little bit more well-rounded coverage, although it does not hit Hawlucha.
Right, good point.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. And that's pretty much all I have to say about his team, outside of the disappointing Cresselia usage and the Gyarados. The Hail Veil Mew was a really god set. I really liked that one. Yeah, that's it. So pass it back to you guys.
All right. Well, that's all we've got for this week because we actually had Chris White and AJ postponed until the bye week, which I believe is week 6?
It's
Something
not
that? Week
like
7?
after all the regular
Yeah.
season, is it? It's a
Yeah,
little bit
it's
earlier.
earlier this year. It's yeah. So we play. Actually, it's week 6 is
Spring
makeups.
break, so
Yeah.
2 weeks from now.
So we'll have that one for you soon. But this week it's just our 3 games since that one got postponed.
Yikes.
So looking at the division standings now, it's Tyler atop the Zangoose division, KO plus 11. Tyler sitting atop the division, much like last year.
not for long though.
No way.
Yeah,
Don't do
big
this.
matchup with Dave this week. Dave at 2-1.
Dude,
Yeah,
I'm
we're gonna-
6-0,
Big
Dave.
matchup with Anthony.
We're knocking him down. No, not again. Not again.
Dave, play me right now.
Live.
I mean, you keep saying that. I'm gonna have to run back and check my team and like see if it's actually ready.
Dude,
which
I'll
I
play
don't
you
think it is.
during your swim practice.
Tyler, I know that you've been prepping all last week. You can't be talking like you've done no prep.
Yeah, but I like YOLO'd my way through the entire prep process. It was awesome.
I gave you plenty of time with my trade. Like you had all last week.
Oh, I know. Yeah, play me right now.
I'm not gonna play you right now. Maybe like tomorrow or something. Day after.
All right. Well, with that
Saturday.
being said,
Saturday.
I think that's all we
Yeah.
have for this week.
Yeah.
I gave my thoughts, even if you guys couldn't hear them.
Yeah. We talked over
Excellent.
them.
Excellent.
I disagree with
Yeah.
everything you said, by the way.
I probably do too, honestly.
Yeah.
I guess we'll find out.
Next
All right.
time on
Yeah.
The
See you guys next week.
Zangooses.